This past Friday night, sitting around my Shabbat table with family and a few guests, there was a strong rainstorm here in Sydney. And suddenly the storm became really strong. A leak formed in my roof and the rain started to pour through the hole into my living room. And as it calmed down and settled, I was reminded of a very valuable and important Chanukah message that I'd like to share with you. There's an old Hasidic saying, one has to listen attentively to the stories that the Chanukah candles tell us. What I'm going to share with you now is one of those stories, one of those powerful lessons that we can learn as we look and observe the Chanukah candles burning. Originally, the mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles every night was performed in a way that the menorah was placed at the front door, facing the street. The idea was to publicize the miracle of Chanukah, the miracle of the oil, to the people on the street. And in the Talmud, there's a fascinating dispute between two great commentators, between two great halachic authorities who comment and analyze the laws of Chanukah as they appear in the Talmud. And the dispute centers around a house that doesn't open directly onto the street, but a home that opens into a courtyard, and in the courtyard there's a gate that opens into the street. Where does one place the Chanukah menorah? Where does one place the Chanukah candles? One opinion is that because the Chanukah candles need to be facing the street and obvious and apparent to those passing by in the road, therefore the Chanukah menorah should be placed at the gate of the courtyard facing the street. The second opinion is no. It needs to be at the front door of the house facing the outside. And if the house faces into a courtyard, it should be at the front door facing the courtyard. That is a dispute in the context of how Chanukah candles used to be kindled when it was there to illuminate the outside. However, all this has changed. The consensus among all halachic authorities is that nowadays we actually don't light the Chanukah menorah at the door of the house or the door of the courtyard, but we light it inside the home, inside the house. Some do it at a door inside the house, some do it at the window, but it's inside the home. What is it about the mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles that the location seems to vary from time to time, and it seemed to evolve that it was originally at the street and now it's done inside the home? What is so unique about this mitzvah of Chanukah candles that this way of doing it seemed to change and evolve throughout the ages? We can understand this by understanding that the idea of lighting Chanukah candles is to illuminate darkness. The menorah, the Chanukah candles, are kindled at night. Its purpose is to brighten up that which is dark. The idea of Chanukah candles is to bring the positive into the negative. You see, darkness represents lack of clarity, confusion, negativity, distorted values, spiritual erosion, anything that is dark and negative. And we are taught Kabbalistically that the power of the Chanukah candles is so strong that it has the ability to bring holiness, to bring meaning, to bring positivity, to bring light into the darkness. It has the power to bring the positive into the negative, to transform the negative, to elevate the negative, and to make it brighter and transformed. Now we can understand, according to one of the great Hasidic masters, let's go back to the dispute of where exactly it is placed when the house opens up into a courtyard. It's always been assumed that negativity and darkness is a product of an environment that is unprotected spiritually. The symbolism of that unprotected spiritual environment is the street, the outside. It has always been understood that the walls of our home symbolize spiritual safety, strong values, spiritual protection, warmth, clarity of values. When we bring up a family, when we have a strong family unit within the walls of our home, the symbolism of that is building a strong foundation of good values, strong morality, focus, meaning, purpose. It's only when one leaves symbolically the confines of our home, when we leave that protection, when we become vulnerable to the whims and the distorted values and the confused priorities that govern the outside world. Chanukah candles are lit to brighten up the outside. They're lit at the door, or originally were lit at the door of the house facing the street, symbolizing the ability to transform that outside world, to bring extra protection, extra power, extra transformation to the outside world, to the negativity and the distorted values and priorities and the immorality and the erosion, the spiritual erosion that exists on the outside, which doesn't exist within the protection of our own home. Now let's go back and understand the depth of that halachic dispute. The first opinion says that when you build a strong home, when you build a strong spiritual and meaningful fortress within the home, the power of that home, the foundation, the strength of the home goes beyond the home. It is not only there within the home. The protection carries forward. It allows a person to take it when he leaves or she leaves the confines of the home. And therefore that opinion says that when the home faces the courtyard, you don't need to light the Chanukah candles at the door of the house. When you leave the house, you're still protected. You're still able to carry with you the values that you absorbed within the confines of the home. It is only when you go into the thick of the street, when you go into the real openness of society, when you're now facing the actual street, you've left the courtyard, then we become unprotected, then we become vulnerable, and therefore we have to place the menorah at the gate facing the actual street. Comes along the second opinion and says no. There is a time where the home is strong, but it's not strong enough. There is a time where the spiritual fortress is built in the home, but it's not on strong foundations. There's cracks in the walls. And therefore, while the person is symbolically still protected within the confines and the warmth and the clarity of the home, they're okay. But as soon as the front door opens, as soon as they go out into the courtyard even, there's a vulnerability, there's danger, there's an unprotected environment. And therefore, as soon as you open the door of the home, you need to right away bring the extra dose, the extra strength of the Chanukah candles to illuminate and transform even the courtyard. That is the depth and the meaning of that dispute. But all that has now changed. Because now we can all agree that we live in a society where the outside has come into the home. We now live in a time where it's no longer the default position that the home is strong and provides the protection of strong values, strong clarity, and strong morality. It's no longer taken for granted that the home provides that spiritual stability, that spiritual strong roots. Now we live in a world where through so many different mediums of technology which have their benefit. But nevertheless, we know now that with a variety of devices, with a click of the mouse or a push of the button, we often inadvertently invite the erosion, the permissiveness, the distortion of values, the materialism, the pursuit of pleasure and greed. We invite all of that into our living room like the rain that came falling through my roof, which created a very uneasy feeling within my dining room, within my living room, of being unprotected. We are no longer naturally, or we can no longer take for granted that within the family unit we are so protected from the outside negativity and the outside world. And therefore, it is now that the custom has evolved to light the Chanukah candles inside the house. Because it is today's society where we need to ensure, we need to bring that extra strength, we need to bring the power of Chanukah candles, the warmth, the clarity, the direction, the meaning, the purpose, the moral compass into the home, to protect the home. The message and the story of the Chanukah candles is to make sure and to ensure that our homes at least are protected. The Chanukah candles call out to us and beg us to reclaim the power of the home, to reclaim that which we always knew, that the home, the family unit, the education of our children, the closeness of the family and the clarity and the warmth and the morality that we can build at home and shut out and keep out negative outside influences is the very ingredient that will protect us going beyond the home, is the very ingredients that will strengthen us and create that fortress and strength to be protected further than the home, beyond the home, in any environment that we might be. The Chanukah candles call out to us and say, rebuild that fortress. Make sure the home unit is strong. There's nothing more powerful than a strong home. There's nothing more powerful than bringing values and spirituality into the home. Create that environment. Create a Shabbat table. Learn Torah at home. Do mitzvah. Teach values. Create warmth. Create harmony. Make sure the family is strong. Make sure families get together and eat meals together. Not everyone on their iPhone doing their own thing. Make sure there's a strong family unit with direction, meaning and purpose and spirituality, with the power of the Chanukah candles. But the Chanukah candles don't only tell us the story. They don't only give us that lesson. They provide a strategy as well. And the strategy can be understood from another Talmudic dispute that is told to us in the Talmud when the Talmud discusses the laws of Chanukah. And it's a dispute between two famous great academies, the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel. The school of Hillel teach us that the way to light the Chanukah menorah, the way to perform this mitzvah, is in ascending order. To light one candle the first night, two the second night, three the third night, and so on. However, there's another opinion, the school of Shammai. The school of Shammai tells us that no, the Chanukah candles should be lit in descending order. We should lessen the amount of Chanukah candles that we do every night. We start with 8, the next night 7, the next night 6, and so on. What is the idea? The truth is that both are correct. In practical terms, we follow the school of Hillel. We light an additional candle every night. Because the main message and the main strategy and the power of the Chanukah candles is to teach us that how do we reclaim the home, how do we build the home, one step at a time. Not overnight, not a complete transformation, but one step of growth. Creating a culture of growth where every day there's a little bit more light than the day before. Every day there's a little bit more meaning, a little bit more direction, a little bit more clarity, a little bit more warmth and spirituality than there was the day before. One step of growth, one step of adding every single day. But the lesson from the school of Shammai is also important. At the background of our growth, hidden behind our constant and continuous step-by-step growth, lies the message of the school of Shammai. And that is that in order to grow, in order to take step by step, we also have to weaken the negativity. We have to learn to exercise restraint. We have to learn self-discipline. We have to delay gratification for ourselves, and most importantly, that's the lesson we can teach our children. Because when we immerse ourselves in the culture of greed and pursuit of pleasure that is so prevalent in our day, that weakens the ability to add clarity. It weakens the ability to bring purpose and meaning into our lives. So if we want to grow, the two things perhaps are mutually exclusive. If we want to add the warmth and the spirituality of the Chanukah candles each day, we need to be able in the background to weakening it stronger every day, weakening the forces that come from the outside, by shutting them out, by exercising self-control, by learning the art of discipline, and sometimes the art of not always having everything we want instantaneously, but rather building a culture of direction and meaning where we live our life experiences with a focus not just to derive pleasure, but to actually bring meaning and purpose. That is the story of the Chanukah candles, and that is the strategy. When we do that, we don't need to transform ourselves overnight, but the message of Chanukah is that just like we don't light the whole menorah at one time, we add one candle at a time, we do that in our own lives. Every day we take one step forward with greater strength and determination until we create a fully bright menorah, reclaiming the home, making the home a bright and warm and transformed palace and fortress of strength, clarity, and spirituality. Wishing you and your families a very happy Chanukah.